It's another episode of the Next Fix podcast. And so today we've got Fernando, my new friend Fernando, and which is a really good song by Lady Gaga, I think, right? But nonetheless, his stardom is far beyond Lady Gaga, but I can make jokes. He's a comedian. He's a psychologist. He works in prisons. He's got his own comeback story to speak to. And so we're going to hear about all of it today. And so, but real quickly though, Fernando, I'd like you to just introduce yourself. Let us know how you're doing today, brother, where you're hailing from. What part of the woods are you in?
So I'm Fernando Alessandri. Yes, I'm a psychologist. I am living in Los Angeles, but my journey has taken me to many cities throughout the U.S.
Nice. No, originally, where are you from, Fernando?
So I was born in New York. My parents were immigrants from South America, from Chile. So they came in the 60s, political stuff going on down there. They came to finish their studies here and they stayed.
Awesome, brother. And so, in this show, we like to dig in right away, brother. And so I want to know, because let's face it, people don't typically get into that kind of work, psychology, working in prisons. There's usually a genesis, right? There's usually a starting point. So I want to hear that, man. I want to hear what was maybe the point that made you kind of started getting interested in helping people that have kind of fallen apart, right?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm 200. I feel like I've lived a lot of lives already. So I'll just give the short story and then you can. So
Sure. Yeah.
very early in life, my parents very religious. Like my parents, they lost number two died early at age 8. There
Wow.
there are 9 of us. I was only 2 years old, so I don't know that, but I remember that reconnected them with an organization because of my older brother. They wanted him to have help to process it all, and he ended up joining that organization later. I know I'm going all over the place, but this is
No, that's
kind
all
of
right. Well, real quickly though, right? So there's 9 kids, right? And so when you got that many kids, I know that like the kind of the way that you're talking about it is like almost like lightly in a way, but I get it, right? When you're in a huge family like that, like there's a lot going on. However, was this sibling, were they older than you at the time
yeah,
when they
so
were?
he was the second oldest. So my mother had 7 kids in 8 years.
Oh my gosh.
And then 4 years later, another one, and then 4 years later, the last one. Never stopped working though, but we had a nanny because they realized my father wouldn't let her quit. She's like, "You're gonna make more money. It's better to have a nanny." So that's what they did because they had met in med school. They were doctors,
Okay.
not the rich kind of died. They didn't go into anesthesiology or whatever. They were state
Right.
workers, New
Yeah.
York hospitals. We were dressed in holes, pants with holes and all the hand me down. But yeah, he was the second oldest, and it
Yeah.
was a freak accident in the basement. We had these pipes that were like monkey bars, and he combined it with roller skates, and
Oh my God.
feet went out from under him, hit his head. Whoever saw it downplayed it, and nobody thought anything until that night when someone said, "I don't think he's breathing." And so the whole rush to the hospital, and he was in a coma for 2 months. That's a whole I remember interviewing my father on video, and he just relived it all a few years ago.
You interviewed him and then he
I
was kind of
interviewed my
blown away.
dad about it, about events, 50 years earlier. Could see how much it affected him and how hard he tried to get him better care. He kept having to argue, "Don't take him to this one. They suck over there. Take him to this one." The ambulance wouldn't do it, and like
Oh my God. Yeah. So,
constant.
sorry. So you're just starting out in life, right? And so you witness all of this
I mean,
trauma.
I was 2, so I don't remember that.
Sure.
So I grew up with parents who had kind of checked out because I think my sister tells me they were like the more American style parents before then, getting down and playing with trains and stuff. I never had that.
Okay.
I
Right.
think it was their own defense mechanism. They just sort of like, whatever God gives, God takes away. They became more detached, I think. I
Yeah.
feel like I was raised more by my siblings. I don't know how I
Right.
got in college. Like at some point, a sister says, "Here, fill this out. You need to take it." It was the SATs. Like I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Wow. Wow. Hey, but like, I don't feel like you're not casting stones. I mean, like to your point, like they're trying to get through this thing. And
Yeah.
so, but at the end of the day, you did go to
Right. No, they were
school.
doing their best, and we had a lot of freedom growing up. It also just wasn't, what we have now. I wouldn't let my kid take his bike more than a minute away from where I live. So back then
Right.
we were far just all over the place. So it's a wonder more of us didn't die in that sense. Like,
Hey, listen, I also joke about stuff that other people think is like like, how can you laugh about that? I'm like, look, it's like probably shitty coping mechanism, but hey, if I got to either cry or laugh, I'll just go with the laugh one. You know what I mean?
dark humor, I mean, I think it fed my sense of humor. And it's very common as a psychologist. I've seen it with all sorts of patients where that is what gets them through. I even think we should have a suicide hotline that isn't some nice sugary social worker. I kind of think it should be a New York comedian that's like, "So what's your problem?" You know?
Hey, I listen, and, like, if you get the choice and you're like, "I'll give this a shot," like, but I feel like it'd be under some real heat though if it didn't work out.
Yes, yes, true. But I was saying all that just to say, and I'm a believer. My faith has not shattered through all this, but there was a wrong term where I ended up in a kind of cult from
Mm.
age 15 to 38. And the
What?
reason I'm
15?
mentioning that, yeah, I'm the turtle. No, because I saw it when they were saying, "We think you have this calling." I was like, "I don't know about that because you don't get married. It's like intent, but it's not a priest. It's something where you still have to have your day job. Is a unique thing because you're trying to bring God into the world and stop abandoning all the good jobs. Like we should have decent people in those roles, and I still believe all that stuff. But I don't think it was my calling. I think I just caved under the pressure. I'm saying all this because at 38, I finally realize I don't have to stay here. Like it took me that long. Because at first you think if you doubt it, you're a bad person, right? Like scripturally, it's like once your hand is to the plow, you don't look back.
Okay.
But it took me to older to be like, yeah, but you shouldn't do that to a 15-year-old. Come on. That was a totally unfair situation. And so as I got older, and I was always struggling, it never felt right.
Well,
I
let
always
me ask
wanted,
you this, Fernando, you're in this your words, right? The cult, right? Was any of the other siblings in it? Or, I mean, well, how did that
yeah, the oldest and both parents. So
okay,
it was normalized. And most of the members are married. It's not supposed to take you out of the world, but they need a few that are celibate and some become priests. And so they have this kind of core thing that they thought was my calling. And I have an older brother that it does seem to be his calling. He seems much
interesting.
happy. He seems much happier with it. But it was when that brother died that it recalled their fondness for the organization while they were still in Chile. And then they looked it up here and got involved. And so I
Interesting.
ended up, so I was, yeah. So that's part of my story of like, man, I finally got out of one thing. I went from, what do they call that? The frying pan into the fire. Because when I saw it was okay to leave without being a bad person, like I didn't want to be the guy that marries the secretary. Like, there were those kind of things happening too, where people leave not the best way. So mine was legit, like, okay, this shouldn't have happened. No hard feelings. I don't blame anyone. Because I had tried to recruit people too. It's just nice guys fumbling.
Do you wanna put a name to this thing? I mean, what the heck what are we talking about? Like, what is
Oh,
it?
it's called Opus Dei.
Opus
If
Dei.
Yeah, there's a book Dan Brown made it famous with the Da Vinci Code,
Okay.
but but that book is silly. I mean, it's just
Okay. Alright. Hey, man.
it's just
Alright,
like
I got
what? In fact, I remember when a producer came back from lunch, he's like, "Hey, and they were all gay at this company. He was like, "Hey, that thing you're in, it's not Opus Dei, is it?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, I read this book. You guys don't look good. It doesn't look good at all. But I know you're not an assassin." Like it was just kind of funny. The whole thing was it was surreal. So it's not the worst cult you can end up. It's a good one. If you're
Sure,
gonna be
sure.
like, they don't take anything. They don't put you in weird sexual situations. There's none of that. It's
Alright.
just it's just you're on ice. I always wanted kids. I wanted to be married. So anyway, so I'm 38 and I finally leave this thing and I start dating and I'm a little too crazy out the door. And so I end up in a marriage way too fast, way too
Okay.
soon. And that ends in a non like she cried at the wedding. Like it was bad. Like it was just the whole thing was nutty. I have no idea why she married me and she pretty much said that right away. I'm like, "Oh, crap." But like I just left one thing. How am I supposed to leave another? Like I wasn't gonna go running to the priest and say, "Hey, is this valid?" But I did 8 years. It took 8 years to finally
So now
knock.
we're 46.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
we have a
okay.
kid. We have one kid.
Got it.
And I finally mentioned to a priest, he's like, "Oh my gosh, where you been? You should have come much sooner. That's not a marriage. Like she clearly didn't mean to marry you. Like
Where's
again,
she from?
you're not a
Where
bad guy." So she was also from a pretty conservative Catholic family,
Okay.
but just kind of an indecisive person. She had quit one, she was going to get a PhD in one field and quit and went to law school because she was a good arguer, but then didn't like law. It was just crazy. But I just didn't have the mature, and that's why the church said that, yeah, it's not a real matter, because they realized I didn't have the maturity to make that commitment. I was just a bumbling idiot bouncing from one thing to another without real discernment and freedom. It's more like a gun to
Sure.
your head, like, oh, I guess I got to do this. So those contracts are not valid. But it takes a long time to feel like you're not a horrible person, to go through the steps, and it's
Alright.
slow, and these
Now you
legal
mentioned
things.
you just mentioned steps. I know that you're familiar and you before we hit record, you were sharing with me, like, maybe, some of these darker moments, but, you're part of Al-Anon, right?
So
And
I'm
then you
getting
mentioned
to that.
Buddha.
I'm getting to
Okay.
the bottoming out. The bottoming out. So I'm in this. So we finally, the church says this is invalid, and but this is like 8 or 9 years, and again I'm dating too fast and getting rejection, rejection, rejection. And then I met someone through my work, and technically you're not allowed to meet someone there. So that ruined the career I was in at the time.
Right.
That's what sent me to Al Anon. In fact, we were engaged for 7 months, and it was rocky the whole time. And I kept getting signs, I got to get out of this, especially when she asked for like my banking passwords. I'm like, am I just a big patsy? Like, what has happened?
So where'd you
I'm
find her? Where'd you find her at?
Yeah, it was through work. I don't want to get too specific on that because
Yeah,
some of that
alright.
still haunts me. Some of it isn't
Okay.
resolved, but it ruined my career, and I'm still not out of the clear.
Got it.
But just before I broke the engagement, the therapy we were in couples therapy just because I wanted to kick the tires, like, and he was like, and they all thought I was codependent on my ex that I'm co-parenting the son with because they wanted me to ghost her. I'm like, but I'm co-parenting a son. I can't just not communicate with this person. Like, let's be mature here. So I go to Al-Anon, and just that one night, the first night, they were so loving and supportive. It gave me the strength the next day in therapy to admit I wasn't ready to marry. And then this one just like didn't want to talk about any further working it out.
Well,
She was out of
that's
there.
probably
Like
better. That's probably better, right? I
it
mean,
was. It helped
yeah.
actually. Her steps really helped because I wasn't that strong. I didn't have the backbone yet. But I stuck with Al-Anon. So she took off. That was great. And then when she finally found a place, I've driven a lot of trucks in the last few years. I drove all her crap to her, and
So Al-Anon stuck with you though. So, like,
so I've done
you
that now
quit the
5
yeah,
years. I've
okay.
got I've got 5 years in Al-Anon, and it all just resonated. Even though it's primarily alcohol or drugs, when I heard that first step, it's like came to realize that I was powerless over something. And man, did that make my life unmanageable.
Wow.
And it tanked. So it was that yearning for love, for a partner, for like somebody to help me raise this kid, and just this powerless over stupidity.
Sure.
There's so many
Well, let me
things
ask
that
you, well, once this, like, I guess, this, like, scab gets ripped off, like, you hear the first step, right? It hits you like a ton of bricks. Once you started kind of getting into that community, because you said how immediately it started affecting you, right? Like, this whole time, I mean, did anything come close to like get like fulfilling some of these things that Al-Anon is? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're a part of this like cult, you're all these religions, these relationships, and like you're reaching and grabbing to try to get something. I guess what would, in your words, what were you missing that whole time? Do you know?
so it was love. It was like, I don't know, like I'm too machine like. I go after stuff and I get frustrated, and I bring the same passion to, so it was easy to get distracted and just focus on projects. We would, like, when I went to film school, then it's like, oh, I got the summers free. Let's start a summer camp for kids. Like, I would somehow keep the ball moving, but I was always having crushes at work. Like, it was hard. It's a very hard life. But there was like a busyness. And I noticed it was easier, like in New York, when I would see poverty, it's easier to hang in there than when I was in wealthier areas.
Interesting.
Like if I feel needed, I survive better. I think a lot of
Wow.
people do. I think a lot of people do. So
That's
later,
an interesting statement.
the prison work, that helps me get through stuff because it's like, "Dang, that's incredible misery, and maybe I can help a little." Stuff
Yeah.
like that helps. But
Well, I would say
it wasn't
yeah,
just
go
step
ahead.
1. Step 2 and 3 were important too about realizing, "Wait, you mean I could get sanity?" Because I just thought it was hopeless. I just life is just insane. And
Yeah.
step 2 is come to believe you can get restored insanity and then start handing stuff off and, like, because I love the expression, "Stop forcing solutions." That has been the number one error in my life is just thinking I need to know before I actually know. Thinking I gotta make a call here. I gotta marry this. I gotta say yes instead of just like, whoa, not gonna decide these
Right.
things till it's just so ridiculously obvious.
Yeah.
And I can fast forward, say I'm in a very happy marriage now. And I played
Well,
it that, and I finally played it that way. Like, no rush, no rush. Keep dating other people. Don't even become exclusive. And no sex, but just so like don't tangle. Don't get all
you
tangled.
were
Just
you are not kidding around, Fernando, when you said you've lived 200 years. Like, you're not yeah, it's just a lot of journeys,
I
you
got
know?
that
Like,
from a vampire book. I think it's called The Interview with the Vampire, and he's like, 200 my friends are dead. Like, this is old now. Like, tired of just going through it over and over.
well, my hat goes off to you, brother, because 'cause you're still in good spirits, and I'm happy that you're in a marriage that's healthy, right? And
Yeah.
so, like, I guess when it was at its darkest, though, like, what was really going on with you when it was like, what would you call that rock bottom for you?
It's just the exhaustion and the what have I done feeling, and I don't want to hurt anybody. And so it was two things. By then, so my ex, I followed her. I don't say followed her, I follow my son, right? Like I realize I can make all the mistakes in the world, but I got to get this one thing right, and that's my son. He shouldn't be the victim. I think a lot of people are kind of on the selfish side and they just keep going their life and the kids suffer. And I've tried to really prioritize him. So at some point, 2019, the mom says, I think I want to move to DC. I have more contacts there. She had ended a job in San Diego. I loved my San Diego job, but I was like, oh, I guess, okay. Because I have family there too. He could have cousins. Like, okay, we go there. And we're like a slinky. You know how those go down the steps? So it takes me
Right?
a few months to follow. I get there. She's like, actually, I'm being recruited in Texas. And I'm like, what? No way. But then I'm like, wait, I hate DC. 2 days later, I'm like, I hate DC. I love Texas. I want to get some boots. So I say, yeah. So I say yes to Texas. So we go there and I get an okay. It was a pay cut. Texas was a little rough financially. It was coming down, but it was just hard, like co-parenting, and she's not the easiest person. I think I've already mentioned. So I always felt like I was doing it wrong, and the son is reporting, "Oh, dad let me watch 6 hours of TV." Like that didn't really happen, but stuff where she would yell and I would hear about, it, like so just so much pressure, even not under the same roof. But I never had to like pay alimony. Like she's been fair. Like it's been we both have the son's best interest in mind, and so it's a 50-50 arrangement. He gets his dad time and his mom time. So anyway, the Texas was getting rough, and then the annulment finally came through, and I'm trying to date, and I'm realizing this is weird. Everyone's profile says can't leave Texas. Like most, people are going to come. The older you get, the more stuff they're going to bring with them. And mine is like, oh, my ex is in a relationship with a guy in New York now. So my profile has to say probably leaving Texas. Like it was just crazy, which is why I ended up crossing the line with the wrong. I thought I had become so desperate that God had to like put someone right in front of me and say, here she is.
Right?
Which I don't read it like that ever again. Like never violate a moral or ethical code. So God's not going to work that way. But that's how dark and damaged I was at the time.
Wow.
And it wasn't even plotted, it was just that I didn't put enough barriers. So every morning I would convince myself, "No, never do that," in my journaling. "Nope, never do that. My Fair Lady, he can't really marry her. Higgins can't marry Eliza." Like, "Nope, doesn't work." And yet, because I didn't have a real plan in place, it just blurted out one day like, "Hey, maybe we should have a longer session somewhere where we can talk more." And she was like, "Maybe." And that to me was the green light. Like, "Uh-oh."
Okay. Right. Well, I like that you took the maybe as a yes. I mean, hey, that's
it was just it was dumb. The whole thing was dumb, and we hadn't even met in person. It was a Zoom thing, and I already knew it was off when we met, and I was like, "Oh, what am I?" It felt like a movie, and then there were steps, and then it's like at some point she and I wanted to. So then my ex was moving, and I'm like, let's get married first. You stay put. Let's just I wanted to do the rest by the book, and she's like, no. She had come from a more messed up back where everybody cheats, so she was like, you can't be near your ex without. It's just like so she insists on moving. But I got her own place, but then it was ghetto. It was so ghetto. She's like, I'm not sleeping there. I'm like, oh my gosh, it was nutty. Anyway, life's been
Yeah,
super nutty,
that's a lot of
but
moving, brother. So do you feel like, now just remind me that all of that moving and then that past relationship you just mentioned, was that post Al-Anon and the steps? Was that post that
it was
realization?
coincident. It was while engaged to that woman that I went to Al-Anon that
Right.
gave me the courage to end that, and that was
Yeah.
end of 21,
Yeah.
and now I find Al-Anon whenever I move to a new city, I go and connect right away. And it's
And
like
so
instant family. It's like I even had a conference in Vegas, and I was like, "Now what? The thing's over. What do I do?" I went to an AA meeting, and it felt like a family, like instant acceptance. I love these things.
how often do you go? Is it nightly or what do you do?
Less now because this marriage is really supportive and is great, and it's enough competition that I have to be out for my son some nights. So a lot less now, but it's not an easy sever. Like I love my
Okay.
group in Ojai, which is closer to where my son is, and I miss those people. And like it's just like a local family,
Yeah,
but
man.
I'm able to do it less and less. So that's a
Sure.
reality too.
Well, so my dad, my father, he's in recovery and he went into children of alcoholics. Now that's like his chosen group. He was in NA, he was in N, he's doing the AA and the NA, and then he ended up kind of, finding a better place or a better spot for
Yeah,
him with
you have
children of alcoholics. But those steps, I mean, you tell me because you've been to a few meetings, and I'm actually not that experienced. I got to be honest. I didn't my experience or my journey in the rooms, it didn't go very far. And so I went a different route. But I want to know, when it comes to the steps, like, do you apply those to everything in your life at all
not a
times?
good no. I'm not a good example. Like first I like their advice is come to at least 6 meetings before you decide. And shop
Yeah.
around because they're different personalities. So in New York, I had my Monday night group. They were the best. The Tuesday was like, Thursday was like, the Saturday, But at the time, back then, I needed like 4 meetings a week. Like, just this is super helpful. It just because there's no judgment. Like, even since then, I've tried to go back to Bible studies, and no, I don't want to be with these people. They all kind of look like they have it all together. I like these other groups where we're all just scrambling and like trying to get through stuff.
Well, tell me about that, Fernando, right? Because you had already mentioned that, like, it's important for you to feel like you're needed, right? And that's why you're doing the work in the prisons. I mean, how long you been
So
doing
let me
that?
go through that transition. So my
Yeah.
experiences so I didn't become a therapist till I was 38, 39. It was the same leaving LA, leaving Hollywood, leaving Opus Dei. The three things ended up together. And I was going to say that because of Opus Dei, I had 20 years of experience mentoring kids and giving spiritual advice. And as I was getting older, I was shifting to work more with the married men, and I was hearing phrases like bipolar. My wife's bipolar, and I was getting a curiosity about that. And the final piece and ADHD in kids, and then the final piece was I was trying to sell a reality show with a marriage therapist counselor, and I just loved his work. I was doing the editing. It was low budget, so I had to do it all. We flew him out. We had a little money, and anyway, I fell in love with that work, and I was like, why am I trying to make it in Hollywood to hope to influence people I'm never going to meet through some flashing light on a screen? What about what about learning to do one-on-one work with people whose names I'm gonna learn? So that really and then 2008 economy sealed the deal, like, this industry, the whole thing fell apart. Good time to be in grad school. So luckily I got in, and that was DC. Let me go reconnect with family. That's where I met the wrong wife, the wrong person to marry. I don't even in the Catholic world, you don't even since it was illegitimate, it's not like a real divorce. It's like invalid.
And
Anyway,
that was official, they called it illegitimate, like, and it was just
it's annulled, meaning it was never valid.
okay.
And I never asked, "Hey, get me out of this." I was like, "Tell me, do I need to persevere in this or should I leave it?" Because if they say, "Sorry, you screwed up, but now you gotta be a martyr," I'm sort of wired that way. I would have stuck it out if it was valid, but they're saying, "Nah, this is" I'm using stronger words like fraud and because it's a bait and switch. Like, if they sell you that car saying it works and it doesn't work, like, that's not a okay deal. So, if this person has their fingers crossed, like, "I don't really wanna marry this guy, but I don't know what else to do," then that's not fair. So
Wow.
but there
Man,
are other times, or now in my true marriage, if she has a brain thing and her personality, I'm not leaving her.
hey, that
Like, it's
commitment
it's a real
you've got a
deal.
couple you've got some serious priorities that I can appreciate and I do admire. One is your son, like you've made it very clear that he's the priority in your life and and if everything else is all, cattywampus and all that, who cares if as long as he's,
And
on
my
a
wife
better
had
path.
to understand that side of me,
Yeah.
that I'll fall apart if I can't be there for him. It's not gonna
Yeah.
be good.
Well, walk me through the prison thing, man. How did I like
Okay,
what
so
are we doing?
why prison? So, I was saying, so I became a psychologist and I started out at VAs. I didn't know I was getting the cream of the crop, like, things lined up nicely where I was at these places where people treat you better and they're more professional, and later I end up in places where I'm like, "Who are these managers? Did they even finish high school?" Like, just organizational dysfunction up the wazoo. But it was a curiosity, and when I was going for internship, I even tried some prisons, but they didn't want me because it used to be a specialty. It really is supposed to be a specialty. But when I had my own violation and I had been judged and I had been treated like a worthless human being and I was just thought of as scum in my field and by this woman that, and sometimes she used some of the language like, "You groomed me," like, all this stuff. Like, people just throw all this at you, and your audience can think whatever, but it's just the language didn't last very long. She came back to like, we talked, like, "Come on. I'm
Yeah.
floundering. That's not grooming. That's floundering." Like, at the end of the day, it's an office romance. It's like people use all these horrible words, but, like, whatever. Love is
Well,
rough.
she got scared and then she got aggressive, right? It's like
Yes, yeah, and she had high hopes, but it wasn't the right thing. Like, she had all these tattoos, and she needs a guy who thinks those are great, not who thinks, "Well, I can forgive that, whatever, we all make dumb things." You don't need a guy who's embarrassed that you have these things, you should be with a guy who thinks that rocks. So I felt like I had to do some of the thinking for both of us because I thought she was compromising. Like, this is not who
right.
you need in your life.
Sure.
So, but anyway, so after all that judgment, I was like, and I had to take these ethics classes and I was learning, oh man, was I vulnerable? I had let things slip too long. And one of the things was didn't have enough oversight. And because it happened in a small private practice, not my day job. And I realized, okay, they're right. So what's the extreme opposite of that? Where could I have maximum supervision? A prison. Like,
All right.
you're
Yeah.
gonna,
No
and as a
brainer.
way to show penance. And like, I get it. I could have ended up in prison or like just trying to show this good faith effort. So that's what I decided to do when a state, even though one state took away my license, the next one didn't. They were like, we think this is dumb. We don't, I mean, it just doesn't sound right. It didn't smell right as someone who's like a borderline criminal or
Sure.
a danger to the public and all that
Well, like
stuff.
you said, it was an office romance and things happen, man. You're human,
And I
right?
shouldn't do it again. I'm not excusing it. I'll never do it again. But I used what I learned. I said, you know what? What's the best I can do with this? So I went into environments first, for what's called a forensic hospital. These are guys that are in prison, but they took the insanity plea, or
Wow.
they're in holding because their trial's not over because they've been deemed incompetent to stand trial. They don't understand the process, so it's not fair to continue until they really get and can make an informed choice. So, but then again, the ex moved. So then I went to a maximum security prison in California, and that was scary. I mean, that's a scary place.
Wow. So who are you when I hear that, of course, I'm thinking axe murders and all this stuff, but, what was that experience like for you, though? I mean, realistically.
Yeah, it's scary. And at least at the one facility, at the hospital, there was like staff hallway, and then you go into prison spaces or halfway between. The California prison's like, okay, now you cross through this yard and you go over to that building, and everybody's free, and all you get's a whistle. This is
So you got this whistle,
this is my protection. Like,
and you're just
and the
strolling through the
vest, yeah,
yard.
and the fancy vest. But it's half the time I was too lazy to get the vest.
Wow,
I would
okay.
occasionally guilt myself into putting on the vest for my son because he'd be mad if I got stabbed not wearing the vest. But
Right.
it wasn't
So
as dangerous, but it's also that you just never know. You
sure.
just never know. Most of the time, you're fine.
Right, right.
And there were different yards. So I sometimes had, and I was mental health yard. So D yard was the most severe cases. But they're not all like people are using the system. It is such a chaos. Anyway, that's like a whole other podcast to get into
Yeah. So
prison.
so so
But
but
what made sense was to share this with inmates. I loved, especially when they put me on minimum yard, guys that were leaving soon. I'd be like, how are you going to make sure this is your last time here? You need to understand this better. And I would say things like, this isn't about being good or bad. This is about being smart or dumb.
Mm,
What
that's
is
interesting.
what is your perfect storm? Because they're like, I'm never coming back. I'm going to be a good boy. Yeah, right. What is your perfect storm? And I would use the example of a certain, I think because they're public figures, we can say this, a certain guy that used to be governor of California, was an actor,
Yeah.
had the
Okay.
imprudence, had the imprudence to conceive a child with a nanny. And so I would tell the inmates, you know that guy's story? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you know this? So nobody would ever have condemned him for having a nanny. He could certainly afford one, but is it smart? We have to not think, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. I just have any,
Right.
yeah, but do you need to have that female in the house while you're having problems with your wife? So you have to plan your life in ways where you foresee this may not be bad yet, but we could have a room in Vegas where guys are betting on, okay, I see what's going to happen here
Right, right, exactly,
because
man.
you're just letting too many things pile. And as men, we like to hold the whole thing. They keep putting plates and we say, I got it, instead of like, that's probably too many right there. And
Right,
we got to have that humility that says, and I learned this from my own. I didn't have the humility to realize I got way too much. I'm going to fall. I don't know when, but this thing's going to come crashing down. I got to take serious steps. So I try to pass that along, and I try to use my life lessons for their benefit. Now, unfortunately, California eventually prosecuted my case and said, you got to go, which is just so ironic. But several lawyers told me, oh, they don't care. They don't care that you never had sex. They don't care. They told me cases where someone lost a license for playing pickleball with a client, and then another case where during COVID mask times, a guy came and then she didn't even know who were in her groups, and then she ends up accidentally dating one of them on Tinder till he finally says, "Don't you recognize?" And she's like, "No." He's like, "I came to your group once," and she reported herself, and they still took her license. So it's like these people are not. They're just
wow.
worried.
You're
It's all.
not doing that in California anymore? You're not in the prisons anymore? Or
No,
is
I
it
had to go. March was the end. I'm out.
wow,
I had to leave it because I either had to let them fully come after me, which I kind of wanted to do, but I chose the surrender route in the end because if you just surrender, then you can reapply in a few years.
okay,
So I left it more open ended, but it's just it became clear between the lawyers and the prosecutor, oh, that even if I went to trial, that judge doesn't decide anything. They submit a letter to a board that's already saying we want you out
okay, right,
because of all those years of neglect. So now instead of putting the pendulum in the middle, they go the other way and
yeah,
just they don't want any headlines like you let that guy keep working. Like they're just overreacting now to all that negligence. And I get it. I take one for the team. I take one. I often think I can't get out of speeding tickets. I'm like, oh, they see me as white. I'm Latino, but they're just gonna give me the ticket because I'm the easy one. I'm not yelling, I'm not arguing. They're like, "Oh, you help us with our numbers." So
So, well, let me ask you this though, Fernando. Like, you had when you had mentioned originally that you feel better when you believe that you're valued, right? That people need you. And the prison was giving you that. And I, what I interpreted that as is acts of service, right? Like you and I think this applies to everybody. If your life is absolute shit, you don't know what to do, go help somebody.
but yeah,
Guess
definitely.
what? You're gonna feel better, and you're doing something valuable, and it could be any type of an act of service. You can help people with all kinds of things, and you are helping people that were in prison, and it was benefiting your life, right? So somebody could argue that you're doing it for selfish reasons, but hey, it works. That formula works. Acts of service and being helpful to others is a real thing. So what are you doing now to fulfill that kind of part of your life?
But even to end on that, like, it's not like you get this huge joy out of it, but it keeps you moving. It's a drive. You gotta show up for them. You know they're waiting. And the rest of the institution is so bad that you really I joke that my nickname should be Charlie Chaplin
Yeah.
because I felt more like a chaplain than a therapist. Like giving them mindfulness, it's not as important as the bigger stuff we started talking about. So knowing that it's more like a purpose driven, not like a joy, like, oh, don't I feel great? Pat me on the back. It was like, no, but I'm probably the only guy that treated him like a human being today. And there was always humor. We always laughed. Oh, can I tell my Compton story? This one joke. I
Yeah.
had a guy with all the tattoos. They all had these tattoos everywhere. And this one was so funny because I finally asked. I kept seeing CT, 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 and I finally get one of them in my office. And I'm like, what is this? Are you a big fan of Connecticut? And I knew that was wrong. But it's like, no, man, it's Compton. But he was on the floor. He was laughing. Like, it's just
Yeah.
the irony of a big LA gang and compare that with Connecticut.
Yeah, you're like, "I don't know how all these Connecticut citizens got locked up in the system. This is
But
crazy."
we were laughing all the time, and I could tell the guards sometimes were like, "What's going on? You're not supposed to be. Don't you understand? It's prison. They're supposed to be unhappy here." I didn't care about that part. Like
Right.
we were gonna get laughs. So now, all right. So I finished the book. So I had to leave the job, and it coincided. Again, I still have a rich faith. I'm trying to work with God and with the universe, and like, okay, what's next? But I feel like I'm in a window now where it afforded me the chance to finish my book. So I have a book out. It's a comedy, nothing to do with psychology, although
Come
it's
on,
a
give us the name, where to find it, man. Don't just like, "Oh, hey, it's, like, hidden out
okay.
there. What's
So
going on?"
it's a parody. I don't want to say the name because that company sues a lot, but there have been 60 years of spy movies, and mine imagines a male spy at age 84, shoved into a nursing home, doesn't think he's ready to retire, thinks he still has it with the ladies. He's gross. He's past his prime. He's inappropriate. He's from that generation. He still says all clashing with modern HR. I think it's a romp. I hope to sell it as a movie. That's slow going, but maybe I'm like a little unrealistic. I published in April. So
Y
it's too fast.
you gotta yeah, you haven't given yourself too much of a runway, brother.
Honestly though, it started as a script and I want to give full credit. So I used a pseudonym because it's not even my original work. It was a friend's script 25 years ago when we were both trying to make it in the industry. And it just never went anywhere. In 23, I wanted to start writing again. I said, "Are you doing anything with this?" I thought it was the easy, low hanging fruit. He says, "No, you can have it, whatever." So I take it over. I rewrite the script. I take it seriously. So I even like pay a consultant that I knew she was working that. We had worked together. Anyway, I got it in a good shape. Then I said, even if it sells, I'm not going to recognize this thing. So I turned it into a book. And that takes 2 years to do. I didn't know. It took 2 years. Oh, even there, I started with ghostwriters. They kept lowering the price. I'm like, "Just turn this," and they were terrible, and I know they were AI. It was a nightmare. But I ended up using them as a secretary, someone to annoy me every week. You got more and and it helped. So it finally got done, and, but so I used a pseudonym both because I was still scared that people in my field were going to think I'm too frivolous or something. Now I don't care, but also to honor that my friend started it. So we use a pseudonym that's maybe more like a brand. So anyway, it's called Agent Bigglesby, Not Dead Yet. And the pseudonym is
Agent
James.
Bigglesby. Agent Bigglesby, not dead yet.
Yes. And the fake author is James P. Rochester. So that's a website, jamesprochester.com. And
Okay.
I have a friend who's good at the website. He did that. There's two different covers because I'm an indecisive guy. So I have a simple yellow 60s cover where it's like super simple because that's how books were in the 50s, really. So I have one that looks like that and that I could check off all the boxes. No AI, no AI. And then a friend and my sister finished it for me. She's a little better at it. And then a friend did the other cover that looks more commercial, more like what you see in bookstores, but it has a drop of AI. And a bookstore almost blocked me from doing a signing the other day because she was like, This looks like it has AI." So there's a war going on right now between the purists and
Sure.
stuff. So I was honest
Well,
and she
hey,
said, "Yeah."
now I've got an interesting take on this because, like, we've been using AI. Like, what do you think Grammarly is, right?
And
What do you think?
CGI and all these
Well, I mean, I
cartoons.
know it's gotten more advanced, but like AI has been fixing our spelling for a while, and it's now just gotten a little bit more,
And there are
smarter.
parts I rebel against. I had a film in a festival and I saw someone else's film where it was like, that guy looks like Liam Neeson and these other, that's gross. Like that just felt ridiculous. Because there, it's what my sister's saying. You're stealing other people's art. You're stealing. So yeah, I want to draw that line,
Sure. Right,
but I'll
right, right.
use ChatGPT to get a quick summary of. I mean, that helped me more with my license battles than talking to expensive lawyers.
Hey, look, man. Hey, I love your resourcefulness, right? Like you use the ghostwriters as a secretary. You're
It's
using your own tumultuous professional career to help prison mates, right? From Compton. Yeah, I love the way that you're able to take what would typically rip a person apart and you're using it to be valuable, man. I think it's awesome.
I have felt ripped apart, but and despaired at some point. And I understand some doctors will commit suicide from things like this. Like their identity is so wrapped into their professional identity.
Yeah.
But so I've had faith to get me through. But even though you have faith, you shake like a leaf sometimes. Like, what's gonna happen now? And so I've been through it. But yeah, I try to then use it, not let it go to waste.
That's
I
the
mean,
trick, brother.
but it felt horrible to pay those guys because the ghostwriters, it was a very low thing, but then they get you for the next thing, and that was a little more, and that was a total waste. So
Gosh,
there it
yeah.
was just but you gotta learn to just water under the bridge, like, can't rethink.
Well, it's gonna be a movie, brother, right? Agent Bigglesby, right?
It could be like Van Gogh 1 year later and a death, it might be posthumous, but I am confident that the writing's good. I've gotten enough feedback to say, "You know what? The book's actually I think is pretty solid." I think I still need a little more feedback, but I'm pretty sure the book is solid if you're patient, if you let it build and see. Because we did the reading. I hired actors, and that was really fun. So we were at a bookstore in Pasadena, and so the actors are bringing it more to life.
Wow.
But then we ran out of time, and then I'm telling them everything we didn't get to, and they seem to think that was funnier than what we got to, which tells me, oh, that's what I have to do in the script too. Because I started saying, oh, and there's a scene, it's like Princess Bride, and
Nice.
there's a spoiler. It's not going to be the traditional villains out to still kill the 84-year-old. It's his own daughter who's angry.
Spoiler us, man. What do you
I just have to do this one because I'm realizing I've been hiding the ball so nobody's reading it. I got to reveal this one because she's showing up saying, my name is Olivia Martinez de Tajunga, de no sé qué, de Martinez again. You killed my stepfather. Prepare to die. Like, so her mom had the affair with the agent. He kills the dad, but doesn't stay to be the dad. And she's been angry her whole life. So she's
Yeah,
after him. So there are all sorts of surprising people he's not wrong. The facility's telling you're paranoid. Nobody cares about you. And they don't believe his stories because he's in Ohio now. He's not in his home country. And they're like, yeah, right. Was that before you saved the world or after? Then nobody believes him and they think he's paranoid. But by the end of Act 1, the danger
well,
shows up.
All right, Fernando, I'm going to stop you, man, because you're going to tell the whole damn book. But listen, man, hey, you're an absolute blessing, man. I can see very clearly, like you do have a heart for helping people, and you're using your journey and your testimony to make a difference in other people's lives. And whether you may turn it into a movie or not, man, you're out there doing real work, man. And I think that's an absolute. I think that's something to be proud of, and I admire you for all of that, brother. I want to say thank you. Right?
Thank you. I admire what you're doing. This is great, giving us the opportunity to talk, and obviously you're sharing your own story and journey.
Yeah,
This is
brother.
this is great. This is enjoyable.
Well, one last time, just let everybody know where to go to find your book, find out more, to get the early sneak peek on the movie and all that. Man, where should people take a look to find out more?
Okay, this is where I'm still developing. So if you can remember Fern Factor, like my name, that's one website to start at. Just fernfactor.
Fernfactor.com.
So
And
that's
I'll put it in
probably
writing. Don't stress yourself. I'll put it in writing, so it's all
and then
good.
I have one called Incapables because I try to recycle other people that are considered wastes. It's
Okay.
Incapables with capables capitalized, but incapables.org is another place to find me. And so these will cross link with the book and other stuff. I'm making t-shirts too. This one, I didn't even joke about this one, but
What
does
is it?
that read
The
bread and
red
circumcisions?
gosh.
Instead of bread and circumcisions, it's a little like.
You're awesome, brother. I appreciate your time. And this has been another episode of The Next Fix, y'all.
All right. Thank you, Ryan.